The sun beat down on the dusty road to Jericho. A man lay sprawled by the roadside, his clothes torn and bloodied. He groaned in pain, his breath shallow and ragged. Robbers had attacked him, stealing everything he had. They left him there, bruised and broken, to die alone.
"Help! Please! Someone!"
He cried out for help, his voice hoarse and weak, but his pleas were met with silence. The road remained deserted, except for the occasional lizard darting across the hot stones. Hope dwindled with each passing moment as the sun rose higher in the sky. A priest walking briskly on his way to the temple approached the bend. The morning sun cast long shadows on the path, and the air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers. He was deep in thought, contemplating the day's religious duties and the sermons he would deliver. His mind was a whirlwind of sacred texts and rituals, each more important than the last. He saw the injured man from a distance. The figure was barely moving, lying in a pool of blood. The priest's heart raced as he realized the severity of the situation. He hesitated, torn between his religious obligations and the instinct to help a fellow human being. His heart skipped a beat. The sight was shocking, and for a moment he was paralyzed with fear and indecision. The teachings of his faith echoed in his mind, reminding him of the importance of purity and cleanliness. He knew he should help, but the man looked terribly wounded. Blood and dirt covered his body, and his clothes were torn. The priest's training had not prepared him for such a gruesome sight. He felt a pang of guilt, knowing that every moment of hesitation could mean the difference between life and death for the injured man.
What if he is already dead? The thought sent a shiver down his spine. The laws of his religion were clear. Touching a dead body would make him unclean, unfit to perform his sacred duties. The fear of defilement was strong, and it clouded his judgment. Touching a dead body would make me unclean. The priest's mind raced with the implications. He would have to undergo purification rituals which would take time and effort. His community depended on him, and he couldn't afford to be sidelined by ritual impurity.
He quickened his pace, trying to shake off the nagging feeling of guilt. The temple was just a short distance away, and he focused on the path ahead, determined to fulfill his religious duties without further distraction. Averting his eyes from the pitiful sight, he tried to convince himself that someone else would come along to help. Surely there were others who could assist the injured man without compromising their religious obligations. He convinced himself that he had important religious duties to attend to. The rituals and prayers he was responsible for were vital to the spiritual well-being of his community. He couldn't let anything, not even a dying man, interfere with his sacred responsibilities. His faith, he reasoned, came first. The teachings and traditions he upheld were the foundation of his life. He believed that by adhering strictly to his religious duties he was serving a higher purpose. He passed by on the other side, leaving the injured man to his fate. The decision weighed heavily on his conscience, but he pushed the guilt aside, focusing on the path to the temple. True faith is not just about rituals and rules. It is about the essence of compassion, the willingness to help those in need, regardless of the personal cost. The priest's actions were a stark reminder of the dangers of prioritizing religious dogma over basic human decency. It is about showing compassion and love to those in need. The true measure of faith is not in the strict adherence to rituals, but in the kindness and empathy we show to others. The injured man on the road was a test of the priest's humanity, one that he ultimately failed. The priest chose his religious obligations over his human duty to help. In doing so, he missed an opportunity to embody the true spirit of his faith. The lesson here is clear. Compassion should always come before rigid adherence to religious practices. A Levite, a man of the temple, soon followed. He too noticed the injured man groaning by the roadside. He felt a pang of sympathy but hesitated.
What if the robbers are still nearby? I could be attacked too.
Fear gripped his heart. He decided it was too risky to stop. He reasoned that his own safety was more important than the life of a stranger. He walked on, his conscience troubled but his fear stronger. Fear can paralyze us, preventing us from doing what is right. The Levite let fear dictate his actions, choosing self-preservation over compassion. Section 4. The Samaritan's Kindness, a beacon of hope in despair. In times of great need, the actions of one individual can shine brightly, illuminating the path for others to follow. A Samaritan, traveling from a distant land, came upon the scene. The road was long and treacherous, often frequented by bandits and wild animals, yet the Samaritan pressed on, driven by a purpose known only to him. The Samaritans and the Jews were not on good terms, their history marred by conflict and misunderstanding. Centuries of animosity had built walls of prejudice and hatred between them, often regarding each other with suspicion and distrust. Their interactions were limited, and when they did occur, they were usually marked by tension and hostility.
Yet when I saw the injured man lying helplessly on the side of the road, something stirred within me. His pain was palpable, his suffering evident in every labored breath he took. My heart went out to him. In that moment, all the barriers that society had erected between us seemed to vanish. He was no longer a stranger, but a fellow human in need.
He didn't hesitate. Without a second thought, he rushed to the man's side, his hands moving with a practiced ease that spoke of experience and compassion. He didn't care about the man's religion or background. The labels that society had placed on them were meaningless in the face of such raw human need. He saw only a fellow human being in desperate need of help. His actions were guided by a deep sense of empathy and a commitment to doing what was right.
I gently lifted the injured man, feeling the weight of his suffering as if it were my own. His body was battered and bruised, a testament to the violence he had endured, and took him to a nearby inn. I cleaned his wounds with the utmost care, each touch a silent promise that he was not alone, and tended to him with the utmost care. Every action was infused with a deep sense of responsibility and compassion, a commitment to seeing him through his darkest hour.
He paid me to look after him, ensuring that the man would receive the care he needed even in his absence, and promised to return and pay any further expenses. His commitment was unwavering, a testament to his character and the depth of his compassion.
True kindness knows no boundaries. It transcends the divisions that we create, reaching across the chasms of prejudice and fear. The Samaritan exemplified compassion and empathy, his actions a beacon of hope in a world often darkened by indifference, proving that love and mercy transcend social and religious divides. His story is a timeless reminder that in the face of suffering, our shared humanity is what truly matters. Section 5. Neighbors Beyond Boundaries, a universal message of love. The story of the Good Samaritan is a timeless lesson in compassion and humanity. It is a narrative that has transcended centuries, cultures, and religions, resonating with people from all walks of life. This parable, found in the Gospel of Luke, tells of a traveler who is stripped of clothing, beaten, and left half dead alongside the road. First a priest and then a Levite come by, but both avoid the man. Finally, a Samaritan happens upon the traveler. Although Samaritans and Jews despised each other, the Samaritan helps the injured man, showing mercy and compassion. It reminds us that our neighbors are not just those who live next door or share our beliefs. The concept of neighbor extends far beyond geographical or cultural boundaries. It encompasses anyone who crosses our path, anyone who is in need of help, regardless of their background or circumstances. This story challenges us to look beyond our prejudices and to see the humanity in everyone. Our neighbors are everyone, regardless of their race, religion, or social standing. This universal message of love and compassion is as relevant today as it was thousands of years ago. In a world that is increasingly divided by differences, the story of the Good Samaritan calls us to bridge those divides with acts of kindness and understanding. The priest and the Levite, bound by their religious duties and social norms, failed to show compassion. Their actions, or lack thereof, serve as a stark reminder that adherence to rules and traditions should never come at the expense of human kindness. They saw the injured man but chose to pass by on the other side, prioritizing their own purity and obligations over the immediate need for help. The Samaritan, however, demonstrated that true neighborliness transcends social barriers. He did not see an enemy or a stranger, he saw a fellow human being in distress. His actions were driven by empathy and compassion, not by societal expectations or religious obligations. He bandaged the man's wounds, took him to an inn, and cared for him, showing that love and kindness know no boundaries. He reminds us that we all have the capacity to be good neighbors, to show kindness and compassion to those in need. In our daily lives, we encounter countless opportunities to be like the Good Samaritan. Whether it's helping a stranger in distress, offering a kind word, or simply being there for someone in need, we can all make a difference. The story of the Good Samaritan is a call to action, urging us to live out the universal message of love and compassion in our own lives. Section 6. Be the change, embracing the Good Samaritan within. Each day we encounter opportunities to be a Good Samaritan. It might be helping an elderly person cross the street, offering a listening ear to someone who is feeling down, or simply showing kindness to a stranger. The choice is ours. We can choose to walk on by, indifferent to the suffering around us, or we can choose to be like the Good Samaritan, opening our hearts and extending a helping hand to those in need. Let us choose to be beacons of hope and kindness in a world that desperately needs it.